Hi, everyone. Welcome to Momentum Boost. I'm, of course, your host, Adrienne Gould-Davis, and I'm thrilled and grateful to be with you again this evening. So this month at Momentum, we're focusing on the value of connecting to Israel, which is our homeland. And in Israel, Hebrew and Arabic often exist in parallel, just like in Canada, where I live, where the signs are in French and in English. You know, I should tell you, I learned my very first words of French from reading cereal boxes at the breakfast table. So if the box said prix or gratis on it, then I knew there was something free inside the box, some toy or some prize. And that was a very motivating reason for a young kid to learn another language. But, you know, in the end, there is nothing intrinsically unifying in two languages. As often, we read our own language intuitively and we just skip over the other. Now, in Israel, there are always questions about coexistence, say, versus parallel existence, especially around language. Well, that was the case until typeface designer Liron Lavi Turkenich chose to intertwine the languages of her homeland. And today, Liron is joining us to share the result of her vision, which is called Aravrit, and it imagines a future of respect and coexistence. Liron Lavi Turkenich is a multi-passionate design entrepreneur and a typeface designer who is based in Israel. She designs custom multilingual typefaces for international organizations and companies, and she specializes, of course, in Hebrew. But she's the founder of Aravrit, which is that new hybrid writing system that actually merges Hebrew and Arabic. And it has received wide recognition for its ingenuity and for its scope. Now, Liron has experience organizing and curating an international typeface conference. She runs the Global Alphabets Network Mentorship Program, and she's very involved in the typeface design community. She holds a Bachelor of Design in Visual Communications from Shenkar College in Tel Aviv, and she's a master's in typeface design from the University of Reading in the UK. And you really must check out her fabulous TED Talk too. Please join me in welcoming Liron. Hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, Adrienne.
Liron, I'm so thrilled to have you. You know, I have a passion for language. My intelligence is verbal and it's language based. So this kind of thing is exciting to me on so many levels. But I'm not sure everybody understood from the introduction what it is exactly that you did. So what I'm going to ask you to do first, if you wouldn't mind, is explain this brainchild. What provoked this process? Tell me the genesis, pardon my pun, of the whole thing, and let's get to understanding it, okay?
Yes, sure. So the genesis of the idea is, like many ideas, you know, happened by accident. Sure. I was walking down the street. I live in Haifa in Israel, and I never learned Arabic in school. So Hebrew is obviously my native tongue, and I know English, but I never studied Arabic, as some Israelis. So not everyone studies that. And I was one of the ones that studied French, actually, if we're talking about French. And I was walking down the street, and as you said, a lot of signs in Israel are trilingual. So they've got Hebrew, Latin, with English, and then Arabic. And on that day, when I was walking down the street, I realized that I'm actually ignoring a third of every sign, because I'm not even looking at the Arabic. I'm not trying to read it as if it's letters with content and meaning. I was just observing the nice ornaments and appreciating the forms. But then suddenly this realization really hit me hard. And I suddenly understood a lot of things about, you know, you look at letters, you know something, you get it. And then I learned so much more about my life. What else am I ignoring? And I started thinking how much not sense it makes. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, because Haifa, we love to pride ourselves and say that Haifa is a city of coexistence. Sure. You know, Jews, Arabs living side by side. And then I said, okay, but I'm ignoring a third of every sign. That means I'm ignoring a lot of people. No. And I realized that we're living in this parallel existence rather than coexistence. So I have my friends.
What's the difference between coexistence and parallel existence?
Well, coexistence is where you've got interactions, meaningful interactions. which are beyond asking someone for hummus or saying pardon me on the street.
Right.
And then this parallel existence is you do live in the same space, but there are no interactions, no meaningful interactions.
Got it.
Yeah. So I really sense that something needs to be done, but I don't consider myself a classical activist who goes to protest and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I'm a typeface designer, as you said. So I was wondering if I could make something with my own toolbox, and which is letters, and send a message that is authentic to me and natural to my surroundings. And this is how it all started, actually.
Well, I mean, it's staggering to me because, I mean, what was the moment where you understood that this was possible? How did you, I mean, how do you create a new language? How do you merge it? I'm sure that you obviously understand letters and have a visual intelligence that would help you to do that, but there had to be some kind of technique or something. So tell me a bit about the technique and how you went about doing it.
So at first I was trying to play with forms, look at inspirations from design areas, and wanting to see what happens when you merge or stitch together two things that are different from the same area. And each time I was asking myself a question, if what is the combination doing? If it's harming the objects, you can no longer recognize them, or it's not doing anything. And I was trying to find that moment, that spark, that the sum will be bigger than the parts.
Okay.
And after a while of trying to search it, I went back to theory, which is where I always find the answers. And I found the work of Dr. Louis-Émile Geval. Again, we're in a French theme today. He was a French ophthalmologist, and he discovered that in order to read Latin letters, all you need to do basically is look at the top part, the top half. This is, if you try it at home, this is where most of the identifying characteristics are in Latin.
Really?
Yeah. And I was so amazed by this concept that I decided.
You said Latin, meaning English, which comes from the Latin. Is that what you're saying?
So we call any language that uses the Latin characters. So he discovered that for French, but it applies as well to English or to Romanian or to Italian, because the letters themselves are the Latin letters. Right. This is again like a very professional term, but we would definitely say English. Okay. And I wanted to see if this principle also applies to Hebrew. And then I discovered that it doesn't apply in the same way that it applies to the Latin. But if I look at the bottom part of the Hebrew, I can actually read. And this was mind-blowing. I was shocked. I was shocked that it worked. I started showing it to a bunch of friends of mine, and they could also read it. And then I started testing it for the Arabic, and I saw that you need the top part for the Arabic. And this is where I found my system.
Oh my gosh. Do you have images of that? I think you probably have a slide that shows what that looks like. I find that that's mind-blowing to me. Wow. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look. So explain to me what I'm looking at here.
So now we're looking at the word water in two languages, in Arabic in blue and Hebrew in red. Okay. And then what you see is, this is actually my work process. So I use the top part of the Arabic, this is the second row, a line, and I use the bottom part of the Hebrew. And at first I just put them together and see if it's kind of working. And then I start to actually design the thing and create letters or hybrid. So every letter is on its own, but it does compress both the essence of the Arabic letter and the Hebrew letter. So the essence remains and the rest of the parts are gone. But then you can still read it in Hebrew if you look at the bottom part, and in Arabic if you read the top part.
Oh my goodness. Can you go back to the last one that was Yerushalayim or Jerusalem? Okay, here we go. Right? So I can read now. My Hebrew is very, very poor, but I recognize Yerushalayim because I spent so much time there. And the top says, now, obviously this language does not work in verbal. This is purely visual, right? All written.
No, it is. Yes, it doesn't have sound in it, but you would call it Al-Quds, like you would call Jerusalem in Arabic.
Al-Quds. Okay.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at this, now let's say, what do you think psychologically is the meta message there? Thanks for that slide. We'll probably take it down now, but I guess I'm wondering, what is the meta message? Like, what do you think we're saying by making it so legible for both with no hierarchy or supremacy. Although if you think about it, if the Arabic is on the top and the Hebrew is on the bottom, this is not a political statement. This is merely the way the brain reads different languages.
Yes. So I'm letting the letters lead the way. This is really important. It's not some kind of, an agenda around here. But there is an agenda to the project, and the agenda began with me ignoring the Arabic. And what I'm creating here now, the meta message is you read the language that you feel comfortable with, the language that is true to yourself and it's still loyal to the script. You can still read it. So you read that, but the other language is there. It's somewhere present and you cannot ignore it like I did at first. You have to see it and you have to live with whoever is around you, whether you like it or not, it's there.
You know what I was thinking as you're talking about this? I'm thinking that everybody has a gift, a skill set, something that they excel at. And when we want to go out and change the world, we shouldn't look beyond our own toolkit. As you said, you had your way of making a difference with what you specialize in. We all need to look in. We don't have to look so far away. It's there. So, okay, so how does the brain, is this just a brain thing that the brain is able to read tops or bottoms without seeing the whole thing? Is this something scientifically that you discovered?
Well, there is the automatic system in our brain. This is called the Daniel Kahneman, and you probably people know about this, system 1, system 2. And this automatic system in our brain actually helps us remove unnecessary information. So you learn to read very quickly the language that you feel comfortable with. This is how you already discovered the pris or the gratis. You could identify the letters as quickly as you needed to put your hands on that prize in the cereal box. So you walk down the street, or if you're abroad, you can identify the signs in your language super quickly. True. And your brain kind of ignores the rest, puts it aside, and this is we save energy like that. So sure. This is what it's based on. So you complete it. We complete the other parts in our brain of the language that's missing there.
I don't know if you've ever seen, there was a thing going around on Facebook a few years back that showed like a paragraph, and it said, if you can read this, you're a genius, right? It was like a challenge, and it was in English, and there were these, it looked like gibberish, but you could read it completely. We are capable of so much more than we think. So 2 questions. First of all, how did you find in Haifa, first of all, and of course around the rest of Israel, how did the Jews react? And how did the Arabic speakers react? Did you find there was an excitement? There was a curiosity? What was the emotional response?
The emotional response, first of all, so I can divide the responses to people who live in Israel and people who cannot read it. So for the people who can read it, the immediate response is you solved a puzzle, you solved the riddle. There is so much joy in managing to read it. So it's like there was a riddle and you got it, and it's very easy to read. So our viewers can probably try for themselves with the words and see if they can read it. And even the skeptical can read it. So, and then, after the second word, it's very easy. So the first, I call it like opening the door. This is the first step. The door is open now. Your brain is open to understanding the message, to discuss, to think about it. You have the first success, the quick success, you got it. And now let's sit and talk. Now let's sit and see where it gets you. So people replied so beautifully for this. And I have had so many positive reactions to this project. At first, we are seen. This is the first reaction, like we are seen now. And the second is, okay, so what else have I been ignoring around me? And I've been getting emails from people telling me that in their city, they don't have Arabic on the sign, and they only now realize that. Children start, so my 6-year-old, she's my oldest, and she identifies Arabic now, and she identifies Aravrit, and she identifies Hebrew, and she grows up knowing that there is another language, another whole culture just around us in our own city. So
are you finding, are people other signs? I mean, are they adopting this, at least in Haifa, in any signage?
So right now, there is a really big project. There is the expo, the big industrial exhibition in Dubai. And in the Israeli pavilion, this is the centerpiece. I've designed to the tomorrow. This is what it says, towards tomorrow. And when you walk up this pavilion, you walk on like dune, sands of dune. This is a beautiful structure. And you get to this place of hope. So this is how it was embraced by the government, I would say. But it's a very grassroots project.
Now, you know, when we were talking earlier before we came on live, you were talking about an incident that happened when you picked up your child from school. Can you share that with me? You know, with your bag that said shook?
Yes, yes. So this is exactly what I was talking about when I say that people are being seen. Because I went to pick up my daughter, and I was just wearing this tote bag that said Shook Market on it. And all of a sudden, one of the caretakers, she is Druze. She lives, 10-minute drive from here. Right. And she suddenly told me, "Hey, your bag, it says something in my language. Let me see." And then we started talking, and the conversation. So as I said, this was the door opening, but then the conversation went so much deeper. We visited her house. We went for lunch there on a Saturday. It was so nice. And this is what it creates. So my mom, she has a necklace of Aravrit, and almost every day she comes back to me and she tells me that she has a new friend. She got a new friend.
We have a picture. I believe we have a picture of the necklace. Maybe we can get Judy to pull that up for us now. I want this necklace. I want this necklace. Okay, here it comes. I can't, because first of all, it says sister. Okay, explain what it is. First of all, it's gorgeous, but
thank you so much.
Tell me what it reads in Hebrew and how you say it in Arabic and what it's representing.
Sure. So this necklace says my sister, which is achoti in Hebrew, and ukhti, which sounds very similar in Arabic. And this is one of my really favorite pieces because it always tells a story. It's way beyond the story about Hebrew and Arabic. This is a story about connection building, about people coming together based on values and meaning and meaningful design. And so my mom, every time she walks with it, someone asks her what it is, and it's like a conversation starter. And she tells people that she actually sees them when she walks with it.
It's such a wonderful idea, and it's such an obvious fashion hack. I have to say that I would imagine that it's great in clothing. So I want to look at some of the pictures of the t-shirts. Okay, can we bring those up? I need to know where to order this from because I want this. I mean, really, there's something so significant. So, in Momentum, we have this value called unity without uniformity. And that's what this is. Okay, now what does this say?
Well, this was started in, I'll do the build up because this started when COVID hit. And the thing that we weren't allowed to be doing is hug. Oh. And as an Israeli, we hug so much. And I felt like I need to, again, say a message using my tools. And my tool now is Aravrit. And I designed the word hug, which is a hug in Hebrew and inak in Arabic. And, if you can't do it, then at least you can send it to your loved ones, or you can walk with it and kind of say, I really want to hug you right now. But it's saying it without actually using the words and having to phrase yourself. And also, it's really important to say that everything is ethically made. And this is really important for me. All the products are either handmade or ethically made right here. And this was crucial. And the shirts, again, it's you walking, for instance, this one is human. You walk around with this and you don't have to say much more, this is what you believe in.
How do I get these? Maybe we can put the link in the website for your...
Yeah, sure. There's a website with a blog and some videos, and the shop is there as well, and some resources that people can check out.
So if our Momentum viewers want to order something,
well, they are most welcome to order. And I also have, so before we got on this recording, I told you that I have prints that say Jerusalem, and I've been saving them for a very special occasion, and this is it. So whoever will order, they will get a print that you can hang at home and frame. And it's also got an explanation on Aravrit in 3 scripts, 3 languages, of course, and it's gold printed. So it's super nice. Will go very nice in your house.
Yes, it will. Like, I already have a spot for it, please.
You will get one.
So, it's no surprise to you, and especially since the whole COVID thing started, that the world is very, very black and white. There's very little gray these days. People don't seem to be able to sit with nuance, not in conversation, not in politics, not in identity. There's no nuance. You're like over here, or you're like over here. So in some ways, and you started this how many years ago?
Almost 10. So yeah.
There's an expression in the Torah that says that God sends the cure before the malady, and it's like you created something that addressed this divisiveness. It's not political particularly, it's just an emotional statement of I see the other.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
It really does, because I think that this is why it speaks to people, because it's not some, it's not some governmental thing that someone tells you what to believe in. It comes from one person doing this thing and talking about this thing, and also shows, we talked about being very used to looking at letters as if they were daily, and I believe that this is, it's the most basic form of communication, and people are so used to seeing letters that when you modify them, it's very easy to send a message through. So,
this makes me think of too, you said earlier that we just sort of, our brains filter out that which we can't use, but sometimes the things we need the most are the things we overlook. And I just wonder how often we move through our day on automatic pilot and we don't stop and see what's happening right in front of us. There's a deeper message here beyond race and ethnicity and all of that, just around there. I know you have an image of two people writing in it. Can we see that image now?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I'm very moved by all of this. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, where was this being done?
So I'm also giving a lot of workshops before COVID, a lot in the US and Canada, by the way. And I'm giving these workshops to people who not necessarily have anything in common, apart from the fact that they're a part of a university or an organization, and they don't necessarily interact before. But when I ask them to collaboratively think of a word that they want to send as a group, so this, for instance, is one of the examples where they group the word together. And they decided to paint it. And while you paint, while you design, while you make art, you start communicating. You work with the brushes, you work on the design, but you also start talking about other things. So apparently these two students, they were both first-time parents, and they were both a bit older than the other students in the university. So they suddenly realized that they have so much in common just by spending an hour or two brushing and painting together.
Tell me, have you received any honors or anything about this? Has a government acknowledgement?
I think I'm trying to come up with anything. Not anything official that I know of. I mean, I've got some mentions in the media. A lot of press was around this thing for a while, and not necessarily some serious prize for this.
Well, I think you're going to get something. Tell me about you did a TED Talk in Vienna, and it was extraordinarily received. I watched it several times. I was so moved by it. What was the experience of doing a TED Talk like?
This is I work on stages a lot, but this was just a phenomenal experience. It was first of all, we had an amazing preparation. But secondly, this was a very large scale outside of Israel. And I was very interested to see how people would react, because they, my strongest weapon, people being able to read it, I didn't have it there. So I had to find a workaround. And it was 6 p.m. This was the talk before last. People were already tired. And sure. I knew that this is the moment. And I centered the talk around hybrid. What is a hybrid for us today? How we can take things, put them together again in a new way, and how we can, do things that are honest to us and to our toolbox. And at the end of the talk, I'm still amazed. I'm still unbelievably amazed that I got a standing ovation for this. Yeah. And people approached me later and they said, so there was this guy, he said, you know, I'm just a little programmer in a huge company, and you just maybe understand that I can make a difference by using code. And this was like, oh, this was so, this was worth everything. Like, everyone who didn't believe that this project could work, and there were so many people who didn't believe this, and it was just worth everything.
Well, you know, considering this all really started in some ways with that feedback from your daughter's teacher, you're a proud Israeli mother. What is the message that you want to give your daughter? What do you want to give your children as a message? To feel strong and powerfully Israeli, their identity as Jews and as citizens of the world. But by creating this, you're also giving them important life information for wherever they live in the world. How would you define? How would you say to children? How would we say to our children? What is at the heart and soul of what you pursued here?
I think that, you know, children should be the ones teaching us in this sense, because Aravrit is very easy to kids. It's not even a big deal for them. If we adults, we think about this, we analyze it, the children are just reading it and writing it like it's, you know, like it's a piece of cake. And so this is what I would love to learn from children, and what I would love to give my kids is this noticing, observing, seeing your home, neighborhood, city, and even the world around you. We have to look around us. We can't be all, you know, in our own mind. We have to open our eyes here and here and here and here and in our back, and just look around.
And last but not least, what is your aspiration for this new language? What would you ultimately like to see be on necklaces and t-shirts? Where would you like to see this go?
This is such a beautiful question that I was pondering on for many years, until I decided, with the, you know, a lot of houseplants in my house and nature growing, I decided to look at this project as a tree. The trunk is there, the design is made. I mean, it can alter, but it's made, it's steady enough. And now I want this thing to branch out. I don't know where, I don't know the length of the branches, I don't know how the leaves will look. I know some of the fruits, I don't know all of them. And some will fall, some will be rotten, some will bloom. This is where I want this to go. I want this to be as natural as it can, because it's you know, it's a life project. It's been a decade already, and it will go on for as long as I can. So let's see.
Well, I'm going to give you a little blessing now. It actually comes from the Talmud. There's a wonderful story about a man who is an old man who was planting a carob tree. And a young man came by while he was planting it. And he says, old man, you know, you fool, this tree is not going to bear fruit till long after you're dead. And he said, young fool, someone planted one for me before I was born, and it was here for me. And now I am doing this for the next generation. So my blessing to you, my blessing,
I got the chills,
is that the roots of this project spread out, that the trunk stays firm. You know, the Torah compares man to the tree of the field, that the branches overhang, beautiful, fertile, that a stream runs beneath it, that the fruit is sweet and delicious, and that you continue to raise your beautiful children and the world around you, to raise them, to elevate them, to see everyone, to stand firm in who you are, but to ensure that you can see the other, because that's how we'll have unity without uniformity. And that is a beautiful thing about the land of Israel.
Thank you so much, Adrian. This is beautiful. I'm getting the chills, and it's rather warm here. So this is really beautiful.
God willing, I will see you again. I'm hoping I will meet you one day in Israel. I love Haifa, and I'm going to find you. Let's just make sure, I'm going to ask Judy, our executive producer, to make sure that the website goes again into the chat function so that we know where we can order from. Will you do me a favor when you see my order? Will you please put your autograph on that little Yerushalayim for me?
For sure, I will.
I'm so pleased to have met you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. May you go from strength to strength.
Thank you so much, Adrian. It's been a pleasure.